Part 1, the cage, the performance. Let me ask you something, and I need you to really sit with this before you answer. When was the last time you did something, just one thing, without thinking about what someone else would say, without rehearsing how it would look, without calculating the reaction, without editing yourself before you even began? Take your time. That pause, that hesitation, that moment where you had to actually search for an answer, that's the cage. And most of us have been living inside it for so long, we stopped noticing the bars. We were born free, completely, unapologetically free. Watch a child. Watch the way they move through a room. Loud without permission, silly without shame, crying without explanation, laughing without needing a reason. They don't perform. They don't calculate. They just are. And then something happens, slowly, quietly, so gradually you don't even feel it. Someone laughs at the wrong moment. Now someone says you're too much. Someone gives you a look, just a look, and suddenly you understand that the world has opinions about how you exist. And that understanding changes everything. The first time someone made you feel embarrassed for being exactly who you were, that was the day the construction began. Brick by brick, behavior by behavior, apology by apology, you started building a version of yourself that was easier for the world to be around. Quieter, smaller, more agreeable. Like seconds. Who needs you to be funny? Who seconds? Who needs you to be funny? Who needs you to be serious? Who needs you to disappear completely so they can feel more comfortable? You became a shapeshifter, a mirror, a chameleon of personality, not because you're fake, but because somewhere along the way, survival started to look like approval. And disapproval, even the possibility of it, started to feel like death. Part 2, the weight. What it actually costs. I want to talk about the cost, because nobody talks about the cost. We talk about fitting in like it's neutral, like it's just a social skill, like adjusting yourself to make others comfortable is some kind of emotional intelligence. But it isn't. It's theft. Every time you swallowed an opinion because the room wasn't safe enough for it, something was stolen. Every time you laughed at something that actually made you uncomfortable, something was stolen. Every time you stayed silent when everything inside you was screaming, something was stolen. Every time you chose a safe answer over the honest one, something was stolen. And I know what you're thinking. That's just being mature. That's just knowing when to pick your battles. That's just being a functioning adult in a complicated social world. No. There's a difference between tact and erasure, between diplomacy and disappearance, between choosing your moment and never choosing yourself. Tact says, this isn't the right time or place. Erasure says, I don't deserve a time or place. And somewhere between childhood and now, most of us crossed that line and didn't even notice. We stopped editing our timing. We started editing our existence. And the weight of that, the accumulated weight of years of self-suppression, is crushing. It shows up in your body, in the tension you carry in your shoulders that never quite goes away, in the exhaustion you feel after spending time with people who are supposed to energize you, in the way you come home and feel emptied out, not because the day was hard, but because you spent it being someone you're not quite sure you recognize anymore. It shows up in your relationships, in the way you attract people who mistake your flexibility for agreement, who mistake your silence for peace, who mistake your performance for your actual personality. And then one day they say something, they describe you to someone else. And the description is so far from who you actually are that for a moment you feel genuinely disoriented. Like, who are they talking about? Is that really how I come across? Is that really who I've become to them? And the terrifying answer is, Yes, because you built that version carefully, deliberately, over years of choosing their comfort over your truth. It shows up in your dreams, literally, in the ambitions you abandoned because someone told you they were unrealistic, in the art you stopped making because someone wasn't impressed, in the path you didn't take because the people around you needed you to take a different one, in the life you are currently living that fits everyone's expectations perfectly and your own soul not at all. That's the weight. That is what caring what people think actually costs you. Not just comfort and not just authenticity your entire life. Part 3, the lie. What they told you. Now I want to confront something because at some point, probably multiple points, someone sat you down or stood over you or whispered in your ear and gave you a version of wisdom that was actually a leash. They said, "What will people say?" 4 words. 4 words that have derailed more dreams, ended more relationships, silenced more truth, and buried more potential than almost any force on earth. Ani, what will people say? As if the imagined opinion of people who aren't even in the room is a valid reason to stop living your life. They said, you need to think about your reputation. As if your reputation, the story other people tell about you when you're not present, is somehow more important than the story you tell yourself when you're completely alone. They on, don't embarrass us, as if your authenticity is an act of aggression, and as if being fully yourself is something that needs to be apologized for. They said, that's not how things are done, as if the way things have always been done is the way things should always be done, as if convention is wisdom, as if the crowd is always right. They said, people are watching. Good, let them watch. Why? Because here is the truth that nobody put on a poster or turned into an inspirational quote. The people whose opinions you have been sacrificing yourself for, most of them are too busy managing their own performance to actually notice yours. They are standing in the same cage, worrying about the same imaginary audience, editing themselves, suppressing themselves, exhausting themselves. The warden that runs this prison doesn't exist. It never did. The cage was always unlocked. You just never tried the door. Part 4, the turning point, the moment everything changes. So what happens? What actually happens when you finally stop? When you stop performing, stop calculating, stop editing, stop shrinking, stop asking for permission to exist. Let me tell you what happens. First, it's terrifying. I won't lie to you. I won't dress this up in motivational language and pretend it's clean. The first time you say exactly what you think in a room that expected you to be quiet, your heart will pound. The first time you make a decision based entirely on what you want instead of what everyone else needs from you, you will feel selfish. The first time you walk away from something that looks good on the outside but feels wrong on the inside, you will feel ungrateful. The first time you disappoint someone by choosing yourself, you will feel guilty. That guilt is not evidence that you did something wrong. That guilt is evidence of how long you've been doing it right. For everyone else, it's withdrawal. Your nervous system has been trained to treat approval like oxygen. So when you stop chasing it, your body panics. Let it panic. Breathe through it. Because on the other side of that panic is something you may not have felt in a very long time. Relief, the deep cellular, my bone level relief of not having to manage how you're being perceived every single second of every single day. Do you know how much mental energy that has been consuming? The background processing, the constant low-level anxiety, the micro calculations that happen so fast you don't even register them consciously. Did that land wrong? Were they offended? Did I say too much? Did I not say enough? Do they still like me? Do they think I'm capable? Do they think I'm too much? Or do they think I'm not enough? That noise, that relentless, exhausting, soul-draining noise. Imagine it going quiet, not all at once, not immediately, but gradually. The way a storm passes, the noise begins to fade. And in the silence, you start to hear something you forgot was there. Your own voice, not the edited version, not the socially calibrated version, not the version that was trained to say the right thing at the right time for the right audience. Your actual voice. The one that knows exactly what it wants. The one that has opinions you've been suppressing. The one that has been knocking on the inside of your chest for years trying to get out. That voice. And the first time you actually listen to it, really listen, you will wonder how you ever lived without hearing it. Part 5. The losses, what you will lose. Now, I have to be honest with you about something uncomfortable because I've been building to something that sounds like pure liberation. And it is. But liberation has a price. When you stop caring what people think, when you genuinely, fundamentally shift the way you move through the world, you will lose some things. You will lose some people. Not all of them, but some. The ones who only knew the curated version of you. The ones who were comfortable with your smallness because your smallness made their smallness feel acceptable. The ones who called you humble when you were actually just suppressed. When you start speaking, really speaking, when you start speaking, you're really speaking, some of those people will not know what to do with you, and some of them will leave. Let them. I know that's easy to say. I know that when it's a friend you've had for 15 years or a family member whose approval you've been chasing since childhood, it doesn't feel simple. It feels like failure. Moments of loss is assorting. Life is moments of loss is assorting. Life is sorting itself out around the real you. The people who leave were never really with you. They were with the performance, and performances end. But the people who stay, or the ones who show up new, after they have seen who you actually are, those relationships will be the most nourishing you have ever known because they're real, built on actual foundation, not on the sand of who you pretended to be, but on the rock of who you actually are. You will also lose some opportunities. Some doors that were open to the performance version of you will close when the real version walks through, and that will sting. But what you need to ask yourself is, did you actually want what was behind those doors? Sure, or did you want it because it was what you were supposed to want? Because it was what the performance led to? Because it was the logical conclusion of a life you didn't actually choose? Most of the time, and if you're honest, the answer is no. The doors that close when you become yourself were never leading where you actually wanted to go. And the doors that open, the ones that only unlock when you show up as who you actually are, those lead somewhere you haven't even imagined yet. Because you've been too busy managing the performance to imagine anything beyond the script. Part 6, the arrival. Who you become, so who are you? Without the performance, without the approval seeking, without the constant calculation of how you're being perceived. Who are you when the audience disappears? This is the most important question you will ever ask yourself, and it takes time to answer. Embarrassments that taught you to hide embarrassments that taught you to hide, before the criticisms that taught you to shrink, before the rejections that taught you to perform. Go back to the last moment you remember being completely unself-conscious. What were you doing? What did you love without needing a reason? What made you lose track of time? You know, what came out of you before the world told you what was supposed to come out? That thing, that's the thread. Pull it. Follow it back into yourself and don't stop until you find the person who was there before the world got its hands on you. They're still there. I promise you, underneath all the armor, all the performance, all the years of careful self-management, that person is still there, waiting, not patiently. They've been screaming, but waiting. And when you find them, when you finally, fully, without apology or qualification, choose to be them, something extraordinary happens. You stop being tired, not physically. Life is still demanding. The world is still complicated. But that specific exhaustion, the exhaustion of maintenance, of upkeep, of keeping the performance running, that exhaustion lifts. You stop being lonely. Even in rooms full of people who don't understand you, you stop being lonely because you have yourself. And having yourself, truly, honestly, fully having yourself, means you are never completely alone. You stop being afraid, not of everything. Fear is human and necessary, but that particular fear, the fear of being seen, of being known, of being judged and found lacking, that fear loses its teeth because the thing you were most afraid of, people seeing who you really are, becomes the thing you're most at peace with. Let them see, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. And you mean it. The freedom of knowing that none of those things will ever happen to you. The freedom of knowing that none of those things can take anything real from you. Because what's real, your truth, your voice, your values, your actual self, was never theirs to take. It was always yours. You just forgot. Part 7, the confrontation. To everyone who is still performing, I want to speak directly now to you, the one who read this far because something in you recognized itself. The one who is sitting somewhere right now, maybe alone, maybe in a crowd of people who think they know you, and feeling that low hum of a life that almost fits but doesn't quite. I want to confront you, not gently, with love, but not gently. How long? How long are you going to do this? How many more years are you going to give to the performance? How many more mornings are you going to wake up and put on the version of yourself that everyone else is comfortable with and go out into the world and spend the entire day managing how you're being perceived and come home completely emptied out and call that a life? How many more opportunities are you going to pass on because you're afraid of what people will say? Likely, how many more relationships are you going to stay in or avoid being because of what it looks like? Or how many more dreams are you going to defer? How many more truths are you going to swallow? How many more versions of yourself are you going to abandon in the name of fitting in? At what point does fitting in stop being worth what it costs you? I'm asking you seriously. Name the number. 5 more years? 10? Until retirement? Until the kids are grown? Until your parents are gone? Until it's somehow safe? When? Because I need you to understand something about the nature of time. It does not slow down for courage. It does not pause while you gather yourself. It does not give you a warning before it runs out. It just moves quietly, relentlessly, without asking your permission. And the life you are waiting to live, the one where you're finally free, finally honest, finally yourself, is being lived right now. Except it's being lived as someone else, as the performance. When and every day you choose the performance over the truth is a day you don't get back. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this because I care more about your actual life than about your comfort. The world has enough performers. It is starving for people who are real, people who say what they mean, who live what they believe, who show up as themselves completely, without apology, without calculation, without the exhausting machinery of impression management. The world needs you. Not the version of you that was designed to be palatable. You, the full, complicated, unedited, unfiltered, unapologetic you. That person, that specific, irreplaceable person, has a contribution to make that nobody else can make, but they can't make it from inside the cage. So I'm asking you, no, I'm telling you, get out. Part 8, The declaration, this is who I am now. From this point forward, I will say what I mean, not cruelly, not recklessly, but honestly. I will make decisions based on what I actually want, what aligns with my values, my vision, my truth, not based on the imagined reactions of people who aren't living my life. I will disappoint people, and I will survive it. I will be misunderstood, and I will survive that too. I will be criticized, judged, talked about, and none of it will cost me what staying small has cost me. I will stop apologizing for taking up space, and I will stop making myself the smallest version of myself in rooms where I feel uncertain. I will stop performing confidence I don't feel and start building the real thing through action, through honesty, through the daily practice of choosing myself even when it's uncomfortable. I will let people see me, really see me, and the ones who can't handle it, the ones who need me small to feel okay about themselves. I will release them with compassion, without bitterness. Because their inability to hold my truth is not a verdict on my truth. It's just a sign that we were never meant to go the same direction. I will find my people, the ones who don't need me edited, who don't need me managed, who don't need me to perform. The ones who look at the full, complicated, real version of me and say, yes, that one. That's who I want in my life. Those people exist, and I cannot find them while I'm hiding. So I'm done hiding. I am done. Not perfectly, not all at once, and not without setbacks and moments of retreat, and days when the old habits feel safer than the truth. But fundamentally, who in the direction of my life, in the decisions I make, in the way I show up, I am done performing. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. Either way, I'll be fine.